Before you watch this video, make sure you have watched the video on the front of this worksheet, which explains the meaning of parallel and perpendicular lines. For this, anytime you see the words parallel or perpendicular, you're going to think slope. So on number 1, when it says write the equation of a line that is parallel to y equals 3x plus 1, you are going to look at the slope there. The slope of y equals 3x plus 1 is 3, because slope is always the number in front of x. If I want the parallel slope, that symbol means parallel. Parallel, they're so tame, that's because our slope's the same. I am going to keep my slope the exact same. I don't need the plus 1 at all for my answer. All I'm taking away from that is that my slope is 3. Then it tells me that my y-intercept is negative 5. That's my b. Since I have my m and I have my b, I am going to write my answer as y equals 3x minus 5. So you're going to take one piece of information from one part, one piece from the other, and you're going to put it together to write an equation of a new line. On number 2, it says write the equation of a line that is perpendicular to 2x plus y equals 11. All I need from that piece of information is the slope, but I can't determine the slope unless y is by itself. So to get y by itself, I am going to subtract 2x on both sides. The slope of this line is negative 2, which is the same thing as negative 2 over 1. I want the perpendicular slope though, so this symbol right here means perpendicular. And perpendicular, here's their story. Opposite reciprocal, that's their glory. The perpendicular slope to negative 2 over 1 is positive 1/2. Because opposite means I change the negative to a positive. Reciprocal means I flip it. All I am taking away from that whole equation is that my new slope is 1/2. I don't need anything else. Then it says that I have a y-intercept of negative 8. That is the b value that I am going to use. So I'm taking my slope from one part, I'm taking my y-intercept from the other, and my answer is y equals 1/2 x minus 8. Number 3 also has two parts. First, it tells me that my new line is perpendicular to y equals 2 over 5x minus 1. The slope of that line is 2 over 5. But I want the perpendicular slope. So perpendicular, here's their story. Opposite reciprocal, that's their glory. The opposite of a positive is a negative. The reciprocal of 2 over 5 is 5 over 2. I don't need the minus 1 or anything else from that equation. All I'm taking away from that is that my new slope is negative 5 over 2. Then it says that it has the same y-intercept as the line y equals 7 over 9x plus 2. You have to read super carefully on this. Same y-intercept as y equals 7 over 9x plus 2. The y-intercept is your b value. The b value of this equation is 2. So I don't care about the 7 over 9x at all. All I'm taking away from this is that my new b value is 2. So I'm taking my slope from one part, my y-intercept from the other, and I'm putting it together to write y equals negative 5 over 2x plus 2. All right, looking at number 4, it says write the equation of a line that is parallel to 3x minus 2y equals 4. Parallel means I need the slope, and I can't determine the slope unless I have y by itself. So my first step is to subtract 3x on both sides. Then be careful with your signs. I have to get rid of the negative 2. So I'm going to divide each term by negative 2. 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. And negative 3 divided by negative 2 is positive 3 over 2x. The slope here is 3 over 2. Parallel, they're so tame, that's because their slope's the same. That means I'm going to keep my slope as 3 over 2. I don't need anything else from that equation. All I'm taking away from that is that my new slope is 3 over 2. But then this time, they don't give us the y-intercept, they give us a point. This goes back to part 1 of writing equations. If you have missed that lesson or you need to refresh, you can watch my writing equations of lines from various info part 1. You have a choice at this point. You can either use y equals mx plus b, or you can use point slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I have two different videos, one that shows it with slope-intercept form, one that shows it with point slope. You don't need to do it with both. You can choose the one that you like best. So, for the sake of this video, I will show both. For y equals mx plus b, I'm going to plug in 1 for my y. My slope is 3 over 2, and my x is 6. B is what I'm missing. To multiply 3 over 2 times 6, you can do this to the side if you need to. 6 is the same thing as 6 over 1. Well, 3 times 6 is 18, and 2 times 1 is 2, meaning that this is going to reduce to 9 plus b. 18 over 2 is 9. To get b by itself, I'm going to subtract 9 on both sides, and I get negative 8. If I put those two things together, then my new equation would be y equals 3 over 2x minus 8. I plug in the m, I plug in the b. If you prefer point slope form, then you would plug in 1 for y1, you would plug in 3 over 2 for m, and you would plug in 6 for x1. Well, 3 halves times x would be 3 halves x, and 3 halves times negative 6, again, 6 is the same thing as 6 over 1. This would be negative 18 over 2, which is negative 9. And then my final step would be to add the 1 over, giving me the exact same answer. Y equals 3 halves x minus 8. Right now, I want you to pause the video, try number 5 on your own, and then restart it when you're ready to check. Number 5 says, write the equation of a line that is perpendicular to y equals negative 4/5 x plus 6. If my slope there is negative 4/5, perpendicular, here's their story, opposite reciprocal, that's their glory. The opposite reciprocal would be positive 5 over 4. That's all I need from that equation. Then I'm given a point. So again, you can either use slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, or you can use point-slope form. You do not need to do both methods unless you just want to check. I'm going to show both just so you can see an example of each one. So if my y value is negative 3, my slope is 5 over 4, and my x is 4, I'm solving for b. 5/4 times 4 is just 5. Those 4's cancel out. And to get b by itself, I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides, meaning b is negative 8. If you prefer point slope form, then y minus negative 3 equals 5 over 4 times x minus 4. Be careful, minus negative 3 is the same thing as y plus 3. 5 over 4 times x is just 5 over 4x. 5 over 4 times negative 4 is just negative 5. Those 4's cancel out. If that confuses you, 5 over 4 times negative 4 is the same thing as negative 4 over 1. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. 4 times 1 is 4. And negative 20 over 4 is negative 5. From here, I'm going to move the 3. The opposite of adding 3 is to subtract 3 on both sides. And we get y equals 5 over 4x minus 8. On these types of problems, you have to read very carefully because you're kind of using clues to come up with a new equation. And you also have to know the difference between parallel and perpendicular. So don't forget your solve.